All right, I'm thrilled to bring in Newsweek magazine opinion editor Batya Ungar-Sargon. Batya, thanks so much for coming on the U.S. Report. First of all, I got to ask you, what did you make of the big boy press conference?
Thank you so much for having me, James. It's always great to be here with you. Honestly, I think he did pretty good. This is an old man, but he did not seem infirm. And honestly, I was really happy to see that because I am so disgusted with the elites in the Democratic Party and in Hollywood and in the media effectively trying to do a coup against a duly elected president. And it's not just that it is totally anti-democratic, and this, of course, from the defenders of democracy, it's that these are the president's oldest friends and allies who turned on a dime when they realized that they could no longer hide what they had been hiding from the American people. Just as you pointed out, George Clooney raised $30 million for President Biden when he had exclusive access to him and we did not. And when he thought that he could still hide President Biden's state from the American people, he was happy to keep raising money and pushing him through to the finish line. It was only when he realized that he can't beat President Trump that suddenly all the elites are turning on him. They have no problem with a failing person being the president. They only have a problem with him failing to win against Donald Trump. And I'll just make one more brief point here.
Please.
There's been reporting that Clooney consulted with President Obama before running his op-ed. And so in addition to the malice against President Biden, you have this absolute cowardice where President Obama can't say what he thinks, so he's hiding behind George Clooney, where Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer can't say what they think, so they're hiding behind vulnerable representatives from swing states. The perfidy, the lying, the media, which had access to President Biden and knew this and kept it from the American people, and now turning on a dime in lockstep to push him out because the American people found out on their own what the truth is. This is some of the most disgusting things I've ever seen in my life, James.
Well, this is the really fascinating thing because on one level it feels like, you know, the American elite are a giant dysfunctional family where everybody agrees not to talk about Uncle Joe's medical problems or the fact that he shouldn't be allowed to drive a car or have nuclear codes anymore. On the other hand, though, this really does seem like a sinister kind of political thing because it's like the elites say, we are going to decide who the president is, and as long as it's not Trump, we will shuffle the cards and shuffle around on the table just so that we have somebody there who is not the guy who's going to call time on our whole grift.
That is absolutely correct. The same side that casts itself as the defenders of democracy are now trying to get you to believe that in order to defend democracy, they have to actually enact a coup against a duly elected president. It is that insane. The same media that for years has hidden Joe Biden's situation from the American people, for years demanded people get fired for asking questions about it, those same people now want you to believe that they're just doing their jobs, asking the tough questions about which doctors the president has seen and what's going on in his cabinet and all of this stuff that, yes, is terrible and terrifying. And yet, why were they not reporting on this for the last year when it was still the case? And it's because for the last year, they thought they could hide it from the American people and send out a person who they believe is cognitively impaired to beat Donald Trump. And that is where you see the whole edifice start to break down.
Yeah, and they're still trying to scare people about Trump, too, with this whole question about Project 2025, which is this Heritage Foundation thing, not a Trump policy platform. Very quickly, Batya, it seems like they're trying to distract from the Trump platform, which has an awful lot of things which would be popular about ending inflation, stopping wars, rebuilding cities, shutting down Hamas radicals, and closing the borders. They don't want people talking about this because Trump can win on it.
That's exactly right. They're trying to pin Project 2025 on Trump, but Trump's platform, which came out last week, the RNC's 2024 GOP platform, which has Trump's fingerprints all over it, departs not just from the very conservative Project 2025, but from 40 years of GOP platforms, in that there's nothing about being pro-life because Trump believes abortion should be legal for 15 weeks. There's nothing opposing gay marriage in it. And he insists on protecting Social Security and Medicare. These are all things that are very much a departure from Project 2025 and the history of GOP platforms. But the rest of the platform is very popular as well, as you say.
Well, indeed, Batya, and I've always said, you know, whoever thinks a New York property developer who's been married 1,000,000 times is going to be some sort of social conservative really needs their head examined. Thank you so much, Batya Ungar-Sargon. Now, after the break, we're going to have a discussion about immigration, borders, and all sorts of stuff. But first, absolutely wild scenes in the White House press briefing room this week. Check out what happened when Fox News White House correspondent Peter Doocy brought the hammer down on Karine Jean-Pierre and asked the all-important question, what happens if something goes wrong after Joe Biden goes to bed?
We know the president says that his health is fine, but it's just his brain, and that he's sharpest before...
He was joking, by the way. I just want to make sure that that's out there. And he was making a lighthearted joke as he was speaking off. He's speaking off the cuff, and he was making a joke. You know the president; he likes to joke a lot. Okay. He's the same guy who says, "I know I look 40," right? So he likes to make jokes. It is a joke.
Okay.
I think people laugh when he says it.
Well, he also said he's sharpest before 8 p.m.
I think KJP's head was about to go full mushroom cloud there.